Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at observational methods, which you need to know for AQA A-level psychology in the subtopic of research methods. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Observation. The act of directly and systematically watching, witnessing and recording measurable behaviors, actions, events, responses or phenomena as they occur in a specific environment. Observations are used to describe phenomena, generate hypotheses, or validate self-reports. Psychological observation can be either controlled or naturalistic with varying degrees of structure imposed by the researcher. Observations can be qualitative, focusing on descriptive aspects, or quantitative, involving measurable data. Controlled and naturalistic observations. Controlled observations. A controlled and structured environment where researchers systematically manipulate one or more independent variables to observe their effect on a dependent variable whilst controlling extraneous variables to help establish a cause and effect relationship and accurately measure specific behaviors or outcomes. Controlled observation use standardized procedures and randomly allocated participants to each condition of the independent variable. Strengths of controlled observations and why they are an improvement on naturalistic observations. High level of control. Controlled observations allow researchers to precisely manipulate different variables and control confounding and extraneous variables in the environment to isolate the effects and influence of these variables on behavior. This helps to establish cause and effect relationships. Replication. Controlled observations use standardized procedures and have a structured nature. This allows other researchers to replicate the study and conduct the same experiment under the same conditions to verify, validate, and enhance the reliability of the findings, as accurate and consistent methods lead to more dependable results. Able to be statistically analyzed, controlled observations allow researchers to define behaviors and events in a clear, measurable way that provides clarity in defining what is being observed and enables researchers to focus on specific behaviors or phenomena. This often produces quantitative data, which can be statistically analyzed in depth, providing objective results that can be compared and generalized. Limitations of controlled observations and why they are a regression on naturalistic observations. Lacks ecological validity. Controlled observations take place in artificial environments, typically laboratory settings, where the behaviors and interactions observed are less likely to reflect how individuals behave in their everyday lives, and there is a restriction on the range of behaviors that can be observed. This makes the findings less applicable and relevant to real-life situations, reducing the overall usefulness of the research. Risk of demand characteristics. Researchers interfere with the environment and participants are aware they are being observed, making participants less likely to behave naturally and authentically and more likely to alter and change their behavior. This means that the results less likely to be representative of participants' true actions and behaviors. Observer bias. In a controlled observation, researchers may unintentionally influence the outcomes based on their own subjective expectations or beliefs about what they should be observing and seeing, leading to biased and skewed results. Lacks population validity. Controlled observations often involve a smaller number of participants, which may not be representative of the larger population, affecting the generalizability of the findings. Lacks flexibility. Once a controlled observation is set up, it can be challenging to adapt to unexpected occurrences or behaviors that arise, limiting the richness of the data collected. Naturalistic observations. An environment where researchers observe subjects in their natural environment without any manipulation or intervention by the researcher and data is collected in an unobtrusive and inconspicuous. Examples: school canteens, natural habitats, savanna, Arctic, supermarkets, gyms, parks. Strengths of naturalistic observations and why they are an improvement on controlled observations. Good ecological validity. Naturalistic observations take place in real-world settings, where the behaviors and interactions observed are more likely to reflect how individuals behave in their everyday lives and allows a range of behaviors to be observed. This makes the findings more applicable and relevant to real-life situations, enhancing the overall usefulness of the research. Reduces demand characteristics. Researchers do not interfere with the environment and participants are unaware they are being observed, making participants more likely to behave naturally and authentically and less likely to alter and change their behavior. This means that the results more likely to be representative of participants' true actions and behaviors. Able to collect rich and in-depth data. Naturalistic observations can be conducted across a large variety of settings and populations, yielding a wide range of data types, including qualitative data, and allow researchers to study complex social interactions and behaviors in context, where researchers can gain insights into behaviors or phenomena that have not been extensively studied and can help identify patterns and behaviors that may not have been anticipated, guiding future research. Directions. Good population validity. Naturalistic observations can be conducted on a wide range of participants across different contexts and cultures, which is more representative of the larger population, increasing the generalizability of the findings. Flexibility. Researchers can adapt their focus during an observation based on what they see in the field. This allows for a more responsive and organic approach to data collection. Limitations of naturalistic observations and why they are a regression on controlled observations. Lacks control. Naturalistic observations prohibit researchers from precisely manipulating different variables and controlling confounding and extraneous variables in the environment. This means that the effects and influence of these variables on behavior cannot be isolated and a cause and effect relationship cannot be established. Observer bias. In a naturalistic observation, researchers may unintentionally influence the outcomes based on their own subjective expectations or beliefs about what they should be observing and seeing, leading to biased and skewed results. Difficulties in replication. Naturalistic observations can be hard to replicate due to the unique circumstances of each setting and the lack of control over variables, which can affect the reliability of the findings. Breaks ethical guidelines. In a naturalistic observation, participants are unaware that they are being observed and informed consent is not required. This can lead to a lack of trust and participation, as confidentiality and privacy is not respected. Structured and unstructured observations. Structured observations. When observers systematically record specific behaviors or events they see during an interview according to a predetermined criteria or structured framework. Strengths of structured observations and why they are an improvement on unstructured observations. Objectivity. It reduces bias since the observation criteria are predefined, leading to more reliable data. Consistency. Using the same tools and criteria across different observers ensures that the data collected is consistent. Specificity. It allows for focused observations on particular behaviors, making it easier to analyze specific patterns. Quantifiable data. The structured format often leads to quantifiable data, which can be statistically analyzed, providing clear insights. Replicability. Other researchers can replicate the study using the same design, which enhances the credibility of the findings. Time efficient. A structured approach can streamline the observation process, making it quicker to gather data compared to unstructured methods. Limitations of structured observations and why they are a regression on unstructured observations. Observer bias. In an unstructured observation, researchers may unintentionally influence the outcomes based on their own subjective expectations or beliefs about what they should be observing and seeing, leading to biased and skewed results. Lacks ecological validity. Structured observations often focus on specific behaviors without considering the broader context or underlying motivations, which may lead to incomplete understanding. Artificial environment. If the observation setting is too controlled or artificial, it may not accurately reflect real-world behaviors, affecting the generalizability of the findings. Time-consuming. Preparing structured observation tools and conducting the observations can be time-intensive, especially if multiple observers are involved. Lack of flexibility. Once the observation criteria are set, it's challenging to adapt them during the study, which can be a drawback if new relevant behaviors emerge. Unstructured observations. When observers continuously record all behaviors and interactions they see during an observation without predefined criteria or a structured framework. Strengths of unstructured observations and why they are an improvement on structured observations. Rich, detailed data. They allow for the collection of in-depth qualitative data, capturing nuances and complexities of behavior that structured methods might miss. Flexibility. Observers can adapt their focus based on what they see, allowing for the exploration of unexpected behaviors or interactions. Good ecological validity. Unstructured observations are often conducted in real-world environments, providing insights into behaviors in their natural context. Holistic understanding. This approach enables researchers to understand the broader context of behaviors, including social interactions and environmental factors. Discovery of new insights. The open-ended nature can lead to the discovery of new patterns or phenomena that were not initially considered, enriching the research findings. Limitations of unstructured observations and why they are a regression on structured observations. Observer bias. In an unstructured observation, researchers may unintentionally influence the outcomes based on their own subjective expectations or beliefs about what they should be observing and seeing, leading to biased and skewed results. Inconsistency. Different observers may focus on different aspects of the behavior, leading to inconsistent data collection and analysis. Difficult to analyze. The qualitative nature of unstructured observations can make it challenging to analyze the data systematically, as it may not be easily quantifiable. Potential for missing key behaviors. Without a structured approach, important behaviors or events may be overlooked or not recorded. Time-consuming. Unstructured observations often require more time to conduct and analyze, as the observer must sift through a large amount of qualitative data. Overt and covert observations. Overt, disclosed. Participants are aware and know they are being observed and studied. The observer is clearly visible and the participants have consented to being observed. Strengths of overt observations and why they are an improvement on covert observations. Ethical. In overt observations, participants are aware they are being observed and informed consent is required for participation. This transparency can lead to more trust and cooperation from participants, as privacy and confidentiality is respected. Limitations of overt observations and why they are a regression on covert observations. Risk of demand characteristics. In an overt observation, participants are aware that they are being observed and studied, meaning participants are less likely to behave naturally, authentically, and spontaneously, and more likely to alter and change their behavior. This suggests that the results are less likely to be representative of participants' true actions and behaviors. Cannot establish a cause and effect relationship. Overt observations are less likely to be a valid measurement of behavior as participants are aware that they are being observed and studied, and therefore this may act as an extraneous variable on their behavior. Covert, undisclosed. Participants are unaware and don't know they are being observed and studied. The observer is not visible and the participants have not consented to being observed. Strengths of covert observations and why they are an improvement on overt observations. Eliminates demand characteristics. In a covert observation, participants are aware they are being observed and studied, meaning participants are more likely to behave naturally, authentically, and spontaneously, and less likely to alter and change their behavior. This suggests that the results are more likely to be representative of participants' true actions and behaviors. Can establish a cause and effect relationship. Overt observations are more likely to be a valid measurement of behavior, as participants are unaware that they are being observed and studied, and therefore this cannot act as an extraneous variable on their behavior. Limitations of covert observations and why they are a regression on overt observations. Breaks ethical guidelines. In covert observations, participants are unaware that they are being observed and informed consent is not required. This can lead to a lack of trust and participation, as confidentiality and privacy is not respected. Participant and non-participant observations. Non-participant observations. Where the observer observes and studies subjects without becoming actively involved in their activities or interactions, usually from a distance. Strengths of non-participant observations and why they are an improvement on participant observations. Reduces researcher bias. In non-participant observations, observers are not directly involved in the research process and do not engage directly with participants and are not able to develop any form of emotional attachment and bond, meaning that the likelihood that the observer's expectations, beliefs, or preferences may consciously or unconsciously influence the outcome of the study is reduced, as observers are able to take an objective viewpoint. This suggests that the findings are less likely to be reported in a way that aligns with the observer's views and more likely to be objective. Reduces investigator effects. In non-participant observations, observers do not have any influence on the participants, meaning the observer's expectations, beliefs, or preferences about the outcome of a study cannot consciously or unconsciously influence the participants' actions, behaviors and responses or the data collected. This suggests that the lack of influence from the observer allows for a more authentic representation of the participants' behaviors and actions, ultimately leading to more valid and reliable research outcomes. Reduces demand characteristics. In a non-participant observation, the research is designed in a way that allows the observer to observe and study the subjects without becoming actively involved in their activities or interactions, meaning that the likelihood that clues, cues, or signals in an experimental setting that may hint or convey to the participants the purpose of the research or the researcher's expectations, predictions, or hopes, causing the participants to change their behavior either in a conscious, intentional, or unconscious, unintentional way that matches these expectations, are reduced. This suggests that the results are more likely to be representative of participants' true actions and behaviors. Limitations of non-participant observations and why they are a regression on participant observations. Lacks contextual understanding. In a non-participant observation, observers observe and study subjects without becoming actively involved in their activities or interactions, meaning observers are not able to gain a deep understanding of the social dynamics, cultural norms, and underlying factors that influence behavior. This suggests that observers might miss out on the context behind behaviors. Participant observations. Where the observers immerses themselves and actively engages with the group or environment they are studying, whilst observing their behavior and interactions. Strengths of participant observations and why they are an improvement on non-participant observations. Contextual understanding. In a participant observation, observers immerse themselves in the environment they are observing and studying, meaning observers are able to gain a deep understanding of the social dynamics, cultural norms, and underlying factors that influence behavior. This suggests that observers might gain an insight into the context behind behaviors. Limitations of participant observations and why they are a regression on non-participant observations. Risk of researcher bias. In participant observations, observers are directly involved in the research process and engage directly with participants, potentially developing an emotional attachment and bond, meaning that the likelihood that the observer's expectations, beliefs, or preferences may consciously or unconsciously influence the outcome of a study is increased, as observers may intentionally or unintentionally favor certain viewpoints due to the subjectivity of their involvement. This suggests that the findings may be reported in a way that aligns with the observer's views rather than the actual findings and are more likely to be subjective. Risk of investigator effects. In participant observations, observers have a direct influence on the participants, meaning the observer's expectations, beliefs, or preferences about the outcome of a study could consciously or unconsciously influence the participants' actions, behaviors and responses, or the data collected. Risk of demand characteristics. In a participant observation, the research will be designed in a way that allows for the observer to immerse themselves in the group or environment they are studying, meaning that the likelihood that clues, cues, or signals in an experimental setting that may hint or convey to the participants the purpose of the research or the researcher's expectations, predictions, or hopes, causing the participants to change their behavior either in a conscious, intentional, or unconscious, unintentional way that matches these expectations are increased. This suggests that the results are less likely to be representative of participants' true actions and behaviors. Observational designs. Behavioral categories. The classification of target behaviors that are being observed and analyzed by clearly operationalizing them into more precise and distinct components and groups which are observable, objectively defined, unambiguous and measurable. Behavioral categories should not overlap with other behaviors, e.g., grin and smile. Behavioral categories allow observers to tally observations into prearranged groupings. Methods of record behaviors include recording sheet, frequency counts, anecdotal records, duration recording, checklists, video recording, and behavioral journals. Strengths of behavioral categories. Can help to establish inter-observer reliability. Behavioral categories should enable the recordings of behavior of multiple researchers to be consistent. Reduces observer bias. Behavioral categories provide a standardized and objective way to categorize behaviors, meaning a more precision and less subjective interpretations through observable actions and defining what is classed as a behavior and what is not. Allow for scientific data recording. Behavioral categories provide data that is easier to quantify and analyze to contrast with other methods. Allow for clarity and organization. Behavioral categories help to provide a clear criteria for what constitutes as a specific behavior and organize complex behaviors into manageable groups, making it easier to study and analyze them, which can lead to more accurate and consistent results. Help to facilitate communication. Using specific categories allows researchers and practitioners to communicate more effectively about behaviors, ensuring everyone is on the same page. Identification of patterns. Categorizing behaviors can help in identifying patterns and trends, which can be useful for developing interventions or understanding underlying issues. Limitations of behavioral categories. Oversimplification. Categorizing behaviors can lead to oversimplification, where complex behaviors are reduced to simplistic labels, potentially missing important nuances. Subjectivity in classification. The process of assigning behaviors to categories can be subjective, leading to inconsistencies and bias in how behaviors are interpreted and classified. Limited scope. Behavioral categories may not encompass all possible behaviors, leading to some behaviors being overlooked or inadequately represented. Context ignorance. These categories often ignore the context in which behaviors occur, which can be crucial for understanding the reasons behind certain actions. Inflexibility. Once established, behavioral categories may become rigid, making it difficult to adapt to new findings or changing understandings of behavior. Potential for misinterpretation. Misclassifying a behavior can lead to incorrect conclusions or interventions, impacting the effectiveness of treatment or research outcomes. Time sampling. The recording of a behavior at specific time intervals, e.g., every minute, within a time frame that is pre-established before the observational study. Behaviors observed in between the time sampling frames should be ignored and should not be recorded. Strengths of time sampling. Efficiency. Time sampling allows researchers to collect data more efficiently by focusing on specific time intervals, which can save time and resources compared to continuous observation. Reduced observer bias. By using predetermined intervals, time sampling can help minimize observer bias, as the researcher is less likely to be influenced by their own perceptions during the observation period. Quantifiable data. This method provides quantifiable data, making it easier to analyze patterns and trends in behavior over time. Flexibility. Time sampling can be adapted to various research contexts and can be used in both naturalistic and controlled settings. Focus on specific behaviors. Researchers can target specific behaviors or events of interest, allowing for a more detailed analysis of those behaviors. Improved reliability. Since observations are conducted at set intervals, the reliability of the data can improve, as it reduces the variability that might occur with continuous observation. Limitations of time sampling. Lacks population validity. Time sampling may not be representative of the entire observation of behaviors, as some behaviors that are displayed outside of the set observation timeframe may be missed. Missed behaviors. Since observations are only made at specific intervals, there's a risk of missing important behaviors that occur outside those times. Lack of context. Time sampling may not provide the context needed to understand the reasons behind certain behaviors, as it focuses solely on the timing rather than the circumstances. Artificial timing. The predetermined intervals may not reflect natural behavior patterns, which can lead to data that doesn't accurately represent real-life situations. Observer influence. Knowing that observations are being made at specific times can influence the behavior of those being observed, potentially leading to altered actions. Data interpretation challenges. Analyzing data collected through time sampling can be complex, especially when trying to draw conclusions about behavior patterns over time. Limited depth. This method may not capture the depth of behavior or the nuances of interactions, as it often prioritizes frequency over quality. Event sampling. Counting and recording the number of times a specific event that is relevant to the investigation and pre-established occurs. Strengths of event sampling. Focus on specific events. Event sampling allows researchers to concentrate on particular behaviors or events of interest, leading to a more thorough understanding of those occurrences. Detailed data collection. This method provides rich, qualitative data as it captures the context and details surrounding each event, offering insights into why behaviors occur. Flexibility. Event sampling can be adapted to different research settings and can be used in various contexts, making it versatile for different studies. Reduces observer bias. By focusing on specific events, there is less chance for observer bias to influence the data. Comprehensive analysis. Event sampling allows for a comprehensive analysis of behaviors, as it captures the frequency, duration, and context of specific events. Useful for rare events. This method is particularly beneficial for studying infrequent or rare behaviors that may not be captured effectively through other observational methods. Limitations of event sampling. Subjectivity in defining events. Researchers must clearly define what constitutes an event, which can lead to inconsistencies and subjectivity in data collection. Potential for missed context. While event sampling focuses on specific behaviors, it may overlook the broader context in which those behaviors occur, and important details may be overlooked, making it harder to understand underlying causes. Time-consuming. Analyzing events in detail can be time-consuming, especially if there are many occurrences to review, which may limit the sample size. Variability in event frequency. Some behaviors may occur more frequently than others, leading to an uneven dataset that may not accurately represent all behaviors of interest. Observer influence. Similar to other observational methods, the presence of an observer may influence the behaviorist of those being observed, potentially skewing results. Limited to observed events. Event sampling only captures behaviors that occur during the observation period, meaning any events that happen outside that timeframe are not recorded. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.